Hi, my name is Roy Moore with the Scout Patch Auction. This is actually sort of a second part of an interview in that we're hosting a guest, collector Bob Walton. Bob is donating his 10,000, actually almost 13,000 piece Boy Scout patch collection to Cape Fear Council in North Carolina that is going to be sold and go into the council's permanent endowment. We did an interview about some of his CSP collecting, but in chatting with Bob, come to find out he started collecting in '81 at a national jamboree, but his first national jamboree was in 1957. So, Bob, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for visiting. Come to Michigan, bringing some sunshine with you. That's much appreciated here. But we gave him some nice 40 or 50 degree weather to wake up to this morning, unlike North Carolina.
You really didn't need to air condition the parking lot, Roy.
No, well, we have natural air conditioning here, and we're trying to go green. I don't. In the summer, I very rarely have to put my air conditioning on, and sometimes with the gas heat does come on.
Ours runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So,
well, you were on the contingent. You're originally out of Columbia, Montour, Pennsylvania territory. Is your home territory where? What's your home city?
That was my dad's council. It was Columbia, Montour. I was born in within the council territory in Berwick, but my council was Eagle Rock in northern New Jersey.
New Jersey. So you're a New Jersey guy. Okay. Region 2 territory that came. Eagle Scout?
Eagle Scout.
And you went to the 57 National and 57 World. What got you turned on to thinking about doing that?
I had been the alternate to go to the previous World.
In 55 or 50?
In 55 in Niagara on the lake.
The Windsor, the Canadian one.
My father did not get to a jamboree as a youth.
Okay.
But when 57 came around, I was 16 years old, an Eagle Scout. So we arranged that I would be able to go to the jamboree.
Mm-hmm.
So there was one trip.
Right.
Because the World Jamboree troop, as opposed to the local council jamboree, national jamboree troop,
contingent troop,
there was a World Jamboree troop.
And again, troops back then, and they've gone back to it, were provisional troops. That you had people from multiple councils, particularly on the World Jamboree.
World Jamboree was a multiple council
provisional troop.
Provisional troop. We went by bus from northern New Jersey to Valley Forge, which is no big deal. The World Jamboree contingents had their own subcamp. They were a subcamp of their own at
Valley Forge.
At Valley Forge. We were there for the entire jamboree through the closing show. The next day, the entire World Jamboree contingent was transported to the railroad station. We got on a special train, overnighted to Canada.
Oh, okay.
And boarded on the St. Lawrence River. We boarded the MV Fairseas, which was actually a World War II baby battleship that had been converted
to a cruise ship.
And we took a great circle route and sailed into Plymouth, England.
Okay.
From Plymouth, we transported by bus to Sutton, Coldfield, which is near Birmingham, for the World Jamboree. At that time, the contingents were in every section of the jamboree.
Right, they were split. Yeah,
we were split up.
Yeah, the troops, U.S. contingent troops, were split to different subcamps. You wouldn't stay in one subcamp at the World.
When the jamboree was over, then we all came back together in London, and we'll go from there in a little bit. A couple things about the World Jamboree. It opened at noon. I mean, nobody had arena lights in those days.
That's true.
We were in what was actually a public park, and still is a public park.
Right.
They had created an arena, and in the opening ceremony was the then very young Queen.
Oh, that's
Prince
right.
Philip, and they were driven through the entire jamboree contingents, all the roads. They covered through every site, standing in the back of a Land Rover. And then later on during the Jamboree, we were honored with a visit to the U.S. contingent, our U.S. contingent, the 2 or 3 units that were there, by Lady Baden-Powell.
Wow. Yeah, see, 57 was celebrating the 100th. It was off cycle in some respects. 51, 55, then 59, but 57, 100th anniversary of Baden-Powell's birth.
Correct, and the 50th anniversary of Scouting.
And the 50th anniversary of Scouting. So,
right.
Yeah, both.
Very much. So, in that regard, it was a wonderful Jamboree, as much as I remember at this age. Trading took place. I did have some stuff stolen, but I was able to replace some of that.
Well, and you were telling before we went on the air here, you actually had printed up some neckerchiefs or something from your
unit. Our contingent unit used a heat seal emblem of the Jamboree, and we had brought a bunch of neckerchief cloth, cut out cloth with us, and because we were using charcoal fires, we brought 2 flat irons, and we could heat them on the charcoal and do a heat transfer while people were there as a friendship gift.
Yeah, and right then and there, make
right
up.
Then and there, here's your friendship gift, you can watch us doing it.
And the heat transfer was the
Jamboree emblem.
Of the Jamboree emblem.
It's a red Jamboree emblem.
Yeah. 57. It's a round, with a red rose in the center of.
Right. It's not the patch.
Right.
But it is the emblem that is on the patch. So.
Okay.
That worked out well. When we left the Jamboree, we went to London, and from London, I think there were 10 trips, split up across Europe. And so our trip went across the Channel by boat. And then through Belgium and Holland. I don't know whether we hit Denmark or not. Belgium and Holland, and then up the Rhine River by boat in Germany, and eventually by bus into Switzerland, and then by train out of Lucerne back to Paris. The others did their thing. Some went to Rome, as we talked about.
The scouter, my fellow Rotarian, yeah.
And they came back to Rome, so we were all in Rome.
Or in Paris, you mean?
In Paris, excuse me. We were all in Paris, and the United States ambassador invited us to the embassy. So I had the great experience of having my 17th birthday in Paris, and had a little party with 1,600 of my best friends, and everybody was in a red jacket.
Very cool.
We left Paris by train to Le Havre, back to New York Harbor, and because our unit was from northern New Jersey, our parents just picked us up.
Yeah, that was an easy transfer trip.
The L.A. units had to go find trains, and
the Western California.
In those days, you didn't fly; you took a train across the country.
Exactly right. Well, and again, you didn't fly to Europe or this year to Seoul, Korea. You take a boat, but it was the whole contingent on the boat, and that had to be kind of cool. What sticks in your mind from being at Valley Forge as a national jamboree? What pieces there? Because again, that's technically a state park. It was not It
is a state park. It has been used for. It was used for a couple of national jamborees. There was an arena area created, and a number of years ago, one of my grandsons and I went back to that area, and we were in Valley Forge, and we actually found the arena area of the Jamboree, and just going through it and being in the historical park, and the you're able to wander through, and well, here's a site of something that happened and during the time that Washington's troop, which primarily was not a battle at Valley Forge, it was a overwinter facility,
a staging area. It was a camping area, recovery,
training area for the Revolutionary Army. So that worked out very well. As far as the World Jamboree is concerned, in 1957, in 2007, I went back.
Okay.
to visit the 100th anniversary Jamboree, which was also in England.
But where in England was that held? Was that at Brownsea or no?
No, that was
Not Gilwell Park or anything like that.
no. It was east of. It was way east. It's about an hour and a half, 2-hour bus ride from Birmingham. I can tell you.
Okay.
Because we actually went over with part of the British Scouting Association as a reunion of the
50 from the 57
Jamboree, and we stayed at Cambridge University.
Oh, well, that's pleasant. Yeah, that was close by or whatever.
It was close by everything.
What people who have not participated in World Jamborees, we've got the experiences of the U.S. Nationals. Those are on bases, or that's why I'm curious about the experience at Valley Forge, but all the ones that were at AP Hill, now at the Bechtel Summit, these are massive properties. The Europeans will camp 20,000, 30,000 scouts in a fraction of the space in large area fields and stuff like that.
Well, basically, that's what Sutton Coldfield was. It's a city park.
Mm-hmm. Of a number of acres, but it's
a fairly large city park, yes.
But that's what it is a city park.
It's not the size of any of the big New York parks or Grant Park or any of this. But
they're not used to. We've had here in Michigan an international camporee, and some of the foreign contingents are surprised at how far sub-camps can be from one campsite to the other in this country, where we've got a lot more landed space.
Wasn't far in the World Jamboree.
No, at the World Jamboree, they're much closer together.
Actually, I think they were much closer together at Valley Forge too.
I was going to say yes.
You had a smaller venue.
Well, and if you look at the map for the U.S. 37 National Jamboree, we're on the Washington, D.C. Mall.
Yeah, exactly.
We were in the center of Washington, D.C., and if you've visited the mall, the visited Capitol, it's a spread, but it's not that big.
Yeah, it is. And in 07, we were able, on the third day of our visit, to visit Sutton Coldfield, and the British Scouting Association had the maps from the original one, and they could literally look up with your name what unit you were, and they had a guide who would take you to that site, and that was pretty neat thing to be standing where you were 50 years before to the minute in the arena area. You were there on opening day.
You were opening there 50 years earlier, 1957.
And now it's August 1st of 2007, and you're standing in the same place at noon.
How many scouts were able to join you on that reunion, or how many people were there for the reunion?
There were probably about 30 of us from around the world.
Okay.
There were some, probably half of us were American, but none of them were
from your troop.
From my unit. I have experienced being with people who were at the Jamboree, but not necessarily from
your unit or whatever.
The Northern New Jersey, one of the Northern New Jersey units. You traded at 57, though it was local memorabilia and different story, and frankly, there's, in some ways, the history of our collecting back in those eras. I wish we could go back in time a little more like that, because things that were traded typically had a tie to the local community more so, or you're making up your own neckerchiefs at the World Jamboree as friendship gifts. Now we've come to every troop is making, or council is making, a dozen patches. A friend of mine who used to work for me, you would remember him, Bob Purdy. He was a CSP collector. I remember working or attending, maybe it was the 93 Jamboree or something like that, and thinking this would be the top for Jamboree shoulder patches, JSPs, because we were going through a lot of consolidation and merger at that time. And come 97, and there's more patches than ever before, because every troop's making their own JSP, and some troops are doing multiple borders. We had patches I didn't have a lot of them.
Right.
We had, and you had other things. You would bring things from your locale.
Right.
So you were trading.
I've got neckerchiefs.
Non-scouting items.
Well, I've got it.
I've neckerchiefs.
Yeah, or a neckerchief slide that was made. I've got something made from Firestone out of Akron, Ohio, or something. I've got something from Sachem Council from the watch company made a little watch-faced neckerchief slide.
There were a lot of those things made by corporations, and so you did a lot of that. Now, when you were in Europe, the Europeans, if you were trading, and we were going to trade a pocket patch, they would just take out a roll of their patches because they were woven in a roll, and they would cut off, and you would trade patches. And I have maybe a dozen little strips in a frame at home because all the stuff I brought back is framed on the wall of my house.
Well, and those district patches, typically they were district patches, are what we start thinking of as sort of CSPs today, because they were typically council identifiers or district.
They had the name of the council on them.
Or the territory,
The territory for the most part, but they were simply pocket patches. It could have been from a camporee.
Yes.
It would have said Smith District Camporee on it or something, and you were trading that stuff. Or shirts.
Did you get to, uniform trading still was and still is.
I still have a British shirt that I traded for.
And they're typically the American shirts or the American patches have been well coveted at these world events. Question, did you get to tour much of England? Because, this is still 12 years after the war. It's not that long. And they were recovering.
I think there were a couple things about that. We didn't tour a lot. We did take a one-day trip to a soccer match and to Sheffield on Avon and Shakespeare's area.
Yeah, Stratford on Avon.
Area, and we did spend a full day touring London and everything. One of my friends invited me to go with him in London because his uncle was taking him out.
Oh, cool.
And we were going to meet the uncle at Trafalgar Square. And so he took us to his club first, which is the Army and Navy Club. And as you walk up the stairs, he points out that now the paintings of the Queen and Prince Philip, those are for this building. They don't go anywhere else. He is a member. It was just, and we went to dinner, and he took us to what we thought was a nice restaurant. And so we're sitting in the back of the tour bus the next day, and as we're driving through that area, the guy just say, and on the right is Sampson's in the Strand, one of London's best restaurants. And this guy and I looked at, we ate there last night. So you have things like that.
Yeah.
The other thing was you mentioned the fact that it was so soon after the end of the war. Were the fact that you had a number of German scouts there, and everybody was intermingling, and it was scouting. It had nothing to do with it.
There was no history, legacy, no
animosity. Nobody's mad. So you're there with a bunch of British scouts and American scouts and German scouts
as well, and there were countries that no longer have scouting, either due to Soviet Union, at the time, or Middle Eastern countries that attended.
Correct.
There probably was scouting in fewer countries, but more. There are countries that no longer have an active world scouting movement program.
But it was very good, and the one other thing, half of the contingent was below decks going over.
Okay,
and the other half were obviously up in rooms that had views of the ocean. We switched coming back.
Okay.
So that was fair.
Yeah, I was going to say, people who've been on cruise ships in the past 10, 20, 40 years, it's not the same as you said. It was
No.
it was converted military.
This is converted
destroyer.
aircraft carrier.
Or aircraft
and,
carrier.
a lot of the cabins were below base.
Yeah.
Because this was a part of the world of the timing
Right.
where you didn't fly to Europe, and so these smaller ships would.
But that's
sail
how you
back
got.
and
That's
forth.
how you got across.
Yeah.
How you crossed the Atlantic.
So
Well, it's great. Thank you for sharing that
you
history
for
and
having
memory.
me.
Glad to. Thank you for what you're doing for what you've already done for scouting, but what is going to continue on in a permanent and restricted endowment for Cape Fear Council. And we will help get some of your patches, but it's also nice to bring together some history.
thank you. Enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Thank you for last night.
That's true, too. Take care, folks.